Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Surah Al-Hijr, chapter 15, and we will be covering verses 45 to 50. And these are the references, and this is our contact number. Recap so far. Now, some of these the points which I'm repeating in every lecture on Surah Hijr, these are repetitive, but this is for those who might be looking at these slides or this presentation for the first time. The Quran is a complete book and it calls itself Al-Kitab. Events in the human world follow known laws and values, and those who make an effort can find their details and thus benefit from their life. Those who pass the message of Allah to others should never be fearful of being called insane or mad. People take time to accept the guidance of the Quran. We discussed this point in a fair amount of detail previously, but this is going to come back again once we go to other verses. People who look for miracles in worldly life do not understand the functioning of the law of requital. In the human world, there is nothing miraculous. Law of requital, generally people know as cause and effect, but they do not know, many of them, that it is very precise law. And its functioning and understanding its functioning helps us to hold our own self accountable. So we as a result of that, we know our own thoughts and we also know the consequences of our decision making. So it puts life in our own control at a very high conscious level. The Quran, that is the Arabic text, is preserved and protected for all times. There are enough resources for sustenance kept in the planet for all times for mankind. We need to use our intellect to utilize the available resources in the era in which we exist and make efforts to discover more. Many of these resources need to be made sustainable for all times and should be employed for the good of the whole of mankind. Our life in this world offers us the opportunity to either advance or to lag behind. And another thing over here I will add is that we should always keep the deadline in front. That is, we are not here for infinite time. This life is the one on which the next life depends. So our actions here, our thoughts and actions here are the ones which are extremely valuable, and we should utilize the values of the Quran to guide us. It depends on our choice. The Quran helps us to make the right choices in our life's journey and not to be fearful of this life, that I'm being accountable and I don't know what is going to happen to me. If we follow the guidelines given by the Quran, there is great leeway given in the Quran, allowance in the Quran, which takes care of all the difficulties in which we are living and passing our life. And Allah knows the system takes care of the problems created by the man-devised system. Everything in the world is created from water. Life and death in the universe follows Allah's laws, and these are kept outside the control of human hands. For example, every human self will taste death. The existence of Iblis is related to despair within our psyche, and we need to be aware of this state of ours. We went through a fair amount of detail on this issue, but there is a presentation on Iblis and Shaitan, and for further details, we can have a look on that as well. I will provide its link at the bottom of this presentation. The respite given to Iblis, as noted in the Quran, is up to the time when Deen gets established. Now let us look at the first verse for today, 1545. By becoming Muttaqeen, the human self acquires eminence and loftiness. Innal Muttaqeena fi Jannatin wa uyun. Contrary to this, the destination of Muttaqeen, those who, avoiding the pitfalls of life, live life according to the divine laws. They will be amid evergreen, bounteous gardens, fountains of clear flowing springs. Now, I will go through some of these details of this verse a bit more. Further reflections on Muttaqeen, because the first term which has appeared is about Muttaqeen. We generally know about Muttaqeen, but over here I have made an effort to expand it a bit further. The root of Muttaqeen is given here, WQY, to guard something, supervising and taking care of something, saving from a harmful and pain-causing thing, means to take precaution or preservation, has also appeared in the meaning of taking precaution and protecting oneself. For example, protecting from fire. Avoid breaking the laws of Allah. The term wattaqullah, which is normally translated as fear Allah, and that is not the way we should look at it, because over here again, attaqu, the word used is attaqu, which means the laws of Allah. Wattaqullah, that Allah's laws are to be observed, to be obeyed. Because Quran itself has said that once you are in the system of deen, there will be no fear and huzn. Saying that attaqullah, you fear Allah, means that then it is going to contradict that statement. So we should keep it in mind that what is the context of this term. The term wattaqullah, which appears in the Quran repeatedly, means taking into account the laws of Allah, obeying the laws of Allah, living life in accordance with these laws, remaining in conformity to these laws. So imagine if we are aware of all this, and then we are trying our best, even within the constraints of the man-device system, how higher eminence we will acquire, how aware we will be of what is going on within our own head and what we are doing as individuals and as families as well and collectively, and how the world is around us. In verse 3:102, after stating Ya ayyuhallazina amanu taqullaha haqqa tuqatihi. See over here twice the same root has been, the two terms have been used. The Quran guides further by saying Wala tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. So over here, Quran says, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, those who have accepted the Iman, follow Allah's laws. And how to follow them? The way those are explained in the Quran. Haqqa tuqatihi. We know about haqq. So that is what the Quran is emphasizing towards us, that this is in your own good. Wala tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. Make sure that the death does not come to you until you have submitted to these laws and lived on them. We know Iman and Amal Salih, i.e. keep obeying the laws of Allah, and this should continue till the time comes to leave this life for the hereafter. Combined with this, it also declares that Ma anzalna alaykal Qur'ana la tashqa. That keep it in mind that the Quran hasn't been sent down to make your life miserable, to add more fear to the fear which has already been created by the human systems. It makes our life easy and helps us to get through those hardships which the man-device systems create. So it's a big psychological change within us, and that is where the Quran is addressing us. And that is why if we see that in the Quran, the term lakum is used, that it is for your own benefit, for you. Verse 2177, which we have gone through previously as well, sums up many of its constituents. And particularly I've noted one here, including Iman, when it states, وَلَكِنَّ الْبِرَّ مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. That bir, which is the development of ourself, the expansion of our consciousness, the higher level of awareness will not come unless we have Iman in Allah and in the hereafter. And of course, there are a number of other points later on. Then it goes through a number of important steps and concludes by declaring emphatically. Now, at the end of this verse, that's the point I'm trying to make. أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ صَدَقُوا وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُتَّقُونَ. That these are the people, sadaku, these are the truthful people. These are the people who, through their own conduct, make it clear to everyone and to their own self that they are following the path of truth. And they also prove that what is given in the Quran is also truth. Because if somebody is following the Quran, then he or she becomes a model of that. And that is Muttaqeen. وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُتَّقُونَ. And Quran then declares that these are the people who have become Muttaqeen. These are the people who bring forth their latent potentials. And we have gone through it as well previously, that the best comes out of us. And this best is not something which we don't recognize. We recognize ourselves that we are now better human beings than what we used to be. The foremost aspect is to create the desire to become Muttaqeen. Very important. First thing is to have a desire, to have a need. And then all the associated benefits appear as bir, leading to acquiring vastness of our consciousness, which helps to understand the guidance of the Quran. And we have also noticed that as we are going through and sharing these presentations, we are now in a better position to understand the verses of the Quran as we even read ourselves. A lot of points which previously we may not be fully comprehending, now those make far more sense than what they used to make previously. Some more aspects of being muttaqi. The Quran points to many incentives for becoming muttaqi. For example, this is a verse from Surah Al-Imran, وَسَارِعُوا إِلَى مَغْفِرَةٍ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ وَجَنَّةٍ أَرْضُهَا السَّمَاوَاتُ وَالْأَرْضُ أُعِدَّتْ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. The whole universe and its expanse is put before our intellect to reflect on our value as the holders of choice and intent. This is a very powerful verse because over here Quran says, وَسَارِعُوا, make a full effort, make more full striving on the path of Allah together. Ila maghfiratum, for that protection, that security. And this is an extremely powerful, again, attribute, maghfiratum, min rabbikum. See, again, Rububiyat has appeared over here. But Jannatin, and as a result, what will happen is that your Jannat, your goal, which is because whole samawat and earth is created for this purpose, that each and every deed of ours becomes manifested and materializes. So you will see that it is spread throughout the universe. It is not that you are just confined to this planet. There is so much ahead of our life in the hereafter, and where the self will find new dimensions to its arena of operation and functioning. Oh, iddat lil muttaqeen, and it is specially created for muttaqeen. So we should not never undervalue ourselves, because through Iman we have come to this path willingly, and we are staying on it willingly, and we are steadfastly following it, and we are expanding the horizon of our intellect, our awareness, our consciousness. So all these should become an evidence for us. The purpose of creation is summed up in one sentence by stating, Ya ayyuhan nas ubudu rabbakum allazi khalaqakum wallazina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. Again, it is about muttaqeen. So that you become muttaqi. How do you become it? That out of mankind you have come out of it. Ya ayyuhan nas ubudu. It is addressed to whole of mankind, that you follow Allah's laws and establish Rububiyat, Rabbukum allazi khalaqakum, who has created you. So we should link our creation to that great verse which says that you have been created, so that your deeds become accountable, so that you do such deeds which can establish the system of Rububiyat. Wallazina min qablikum, and this is not in your case, this is continuing for a long time. And la'allakum tattaqun, the whole thing is to become muttaqi. And if you're becoming muttaqi, then you are achieving that purpose of creation of yours. Becoming muttaqi placed within our reach by saying your Rabb, i.e. by pursuing Rububiyat, we become muttaqi. Next verse is, Allah's Jannat is not far away from them. وَأُزْلِفَاتِ الْجَنَّةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ غَيْرَ بَعِيدٍ. Over here, Quran has said that this Jannat which you're creating, the moment we acquire Iman and start doing Saleh deeds and then come together, this Jannat may not be visible, but it has now started to materialize. Lil Muttaqeen Gaira Baid, and it is never far away. So with that concept in mind, with that fact in mind, we should keep proceeding forward and keep striving and never give up. Small steps in life. Remember, we did a presentation previously as well, that small steps make a big difference. These may not be visible, their effects may not be visible at this point in time, but their effect are visible to each one of us as we are proceeding forward on this path. They are the ones who want order and balance in the world. Tilkal darul akhiratu naj'aluha lillazina la yuriduna aluwan fil ardi wala fasadan wal akibatu lil muttaqin. And over here the Quran has very clearly said that this is that abode of the hereafter. That is, whatever we are doing now is having an effect in the hereafter. And over here, what Quran has said is that they aluwan, la yuriduna aluwan, that these are the people who do not look for egocentrism or pride or anything, because they are working on behalf of Allah on the earth, and they want to remove all those imbalances which man-made system creates in the world. Wala fasadam, very important, because they do not create fasad. That means those who do not follow this path, this is what they will do, and we can witness it across the world everywhere. Wal-aqibatul lil-muttaqeen, exactly the same. That remember, if you keep working, this is what the Quran is saying, that if you keep working, first yourself will keep developing, then you will come together, then your differences will get removed, and these will become signs for you that your path is the right one. Remember what Malaika had stated at the time of the creation of Adam. I thought I'll just, as a reminder, put this verse over here. Is Qala Rabbuka lil malaikati inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifatan qalu atajalu fiha man yufsidu fiha wa yasfiku dima. That when Allah as Rabb, that is again Rububiyyah comes over here, he told Malaika inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifatan, that there is a plan to create Adam and send Adam as succession of the previous race or previous creation on earth. They in reply they said, Kalu tajalu fiha, that you are going to put someone on this earth who is going to create fasad. See, wala fasad. Fiha wa yasfiku dima, and he is going to shed blood. And this is the default position of human beings, that is of Iblis, when it is not guided by the wahi of Allah. So this is the contrast. We should keep it in mind that once we have come to the path of Allah, we are the ones who see it clearly in the word, and we know this is not going to disappear till Mu'mineen, they emerge as a Jamaat, and that system of deen emerges as a model. The Quran guides to the straight path which was followed by the messengers of Allah, and over here I've quoted a verse. Wanna haza sirati mustaqiman fattabi'uhu wala tattabi'u subula fatafarraqa bikum an sabilihi zalikum wassakum bihi la'allakum tattaqun. Again, it is ending in tattaqun, that is so that you become muttaqi. Surely this is from the lips of Rasulullah, and of course when we pass on this message to others, it comes from us as well. Surely this is my way leading straight, follow it, follow not the paths which will scatter you about from his path. Thus does he command you so that you become muttaqi. So this is about developing that firm conviction on this path, that the path which we are following is the right path because the signs are visible to us. And of course, the first stage of the signs is within each one of us, and then of course, coming together and proceeding forward. Let's look at the next verse, 1546. Elimination of fear and huzn leads to security and peace. Adkhuluha bisalamin aminin. Two words here, salam and aminin. In this paradisical society, which will continue from this life to the life in the hereafter, they will remain protected from every kind of ruin, and full development of all their potentials will keep taking place. This is a very short verse with 3 terms, but there is a lot into it, and now we will look at those aspects. Over here, first I've quoted a verse. The Quran states, Al-Yawma akmaltu lakum deenakum wa atmamtu alaykum ne'mati wa razaitu lakumul islama deena. Because the word Islam has appeared over there, so I thought this verse is very pertinent. This day I have completed your deen, completed my favor upon you, and have chosen for you Islam as your deen. The root of Islam is this one, SLM, means Islam is a derivative of this root word, becoming cleansed of every kind of fault and limitation. All kinds of deficiencies rectified, complete development and completion of human potentials, remaining protected from all kinds of dangers and accidents. See how powerful this root is. It has more of being healthy and to be in peace. One divine attribute is as-salam. Salam is that from which other things acquire peace and security. And so if there is no peace and security in the world, because there is no Islam in the world, hence it will mean to remain protected and secured from troubles and disasters. To live in harmony and justice, i.e. to live in peace and security, and to keep peace and security established in the world. To obey, submission, bow down, to follow the laws of Allah completely. There is an element of kindness and humility implicit in this root, but it has to be with a firmness as well, because kindness and humility, where it is required, where we need firmness and direction, then we have to display that as well. treading on a path in a balanced way and not to go astray, adopting the path of balance and proportion, avoiding vain talk and bad behavior. So this is also shade of it. When efforts become fruitful, also includes beauty and adornment. So we can see that briefly that how powerful this root is. So wherever these root will appear, some of meanings will be appearing in that, and we have to see the context. What picture of Islam as a system of life appears from this root and its application? All human limitations are compensated and his potentials become developed completely, in which he remains protected from all disasters and ruins of life. See how much the Quran is helping us and guiding us, that all these natural disasters need a very high standard of infrastructure on ground so that human life is not lost. By progressing through his evolutionary stages, he keeps ascending to ever new heights. In his own self, he remains in peace and security, harmony and tranquility, and is a cause for peace and security in the world. So there's no point myself being in peace and security and sitting in the house and thinking that I'm all right, Jack, the rest can take care of themselves. Over here, once this comes into us, it becomes part of our self, then we need to do our best in the outer world. In the journey of life, he treads in harmony with other members of society and never does anything which causes provocation to anyone else. And in this way, the social system is ruined. He obeys the laws of Allah established through the human hands completely and bows down his head and heart. We have gone through some of verses on this aspect. All to be carried out with complete balance and justice. This will lead to the fruition of his efforts and no deed will go wasted, and it is evidence-based. And from this, we can also make out that how much effort people spend on rituals and customs and others, which produce nothing in the outer world for the good of whole of mankind. And we should keep it in mind that whatever we do in life, it should have some positive effect in the outer world. This will lead to balance in his own self and also balance in the whole society. Anyone going against this will never ever be able to produce these kinds of outcomes and ultimately will lead to loss and ruin. And Quran has very clearly said, وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِ غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ وَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. Without following this, we can never ever get rid of fear and huzn in the world. Because as we have seen that human beings cannot do this unless this becomes part of ourself. 1546, further reflections. With this brief explanation of the root word and some salient points of the system of Islam, verse Adkhuluha-bi-salamin Aminin states in powerful terms all that is encompassed in this word. If we do not have this system here in this world during our lifetime, then we need to continue striving in this direction with whatever means we have. So if the system doesn't materialize or even we do not see the signs of it, that doesn't mean that our efforts have gone wasted, because our own self and its higher status and eminence, it becomes an evidence for ourselves that what we are following with others, together with others, is producing results, though those results are tangibly not yet visible. Allah recognizes this aspect by referring to some examples from the past. For example, وَقَالَ رَجُلٌ مُؤْمِنٌ مِنْ آلِ فِرْعَوْنَ يَكْتُمُ إِيمَانَهُ. If you remember that there was higher up in the court of Pharaoh, when Pharaoh said that I'm going to kill Moses, he stood up and he said, why do you want to kill him? What's his fault? All he's saying is that we should follow the laws of Allah. And if we don't want to follow, that is fine. But you can't kill him just because he says something. He hasn't done any harm to you. And over here, Quran has beautifully said, Mu'minun min ali Fir'auna. He was among the people of Fir'aun. But he had kept his iman quietly to himself up to that point. And Quran has appreciated that. Our iman is not fruitless. We are, in fact, displaying far more of it outside. We are telling others and we are passing on the message to others as well. So see, this is the basic fundamental of the threshold level to which Quran has saved this statement of movement in the Quran for all times for all of us. And next is, here is another powerful statement of the Quran for us in verse 66:11. وَضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا امْرَأَتَ فِرْعَوْنَ إِذْ قَالَتْ رَبِّ أَبْنِ لِي عِندَكَ بَيْتًا فِي الْجَنَّةِ وَنَجِّنِي مِنْ فِرْعَوْنَ وَعَمَلِهِ وَنَجِّنِي مِنَ الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ. After acquiring Iman, Pharaoh's wife expresses that this present state is unacceptable to her, and the Quran agrees with this statement. Then she wishes to come out of this state of injustice. If we look at this verse, which Quran has again quoted like the previous one, where the Mu'min had concealed his Iman up to that point, and finally he came out. The wife of Pharaoh is the one who is also in the same state, where she has seen the wrongs being done by her husband over there, and she has also seen the confrontation of Moses with Pharaoh and trying to tell him and convince him that you should not do what you are doing to Bani Israel, and of course to other people as well. And she recognizes that this is wrong, and she accepts it, and then she says Rabbi. The same word used over here is not Allah but Rabbi. So she understands the need for a just system because she is the victim of the wrong system. Whereas if we look at her, she is enjoying all the benefits of the system because she is in palaces, and she's got everything which she can wish for, but still she is not happy with that. So this is something which points to us that even if we are beneficiaries of the man-made systems, we have to look at it on a universal basis, that what the system is doing to others, because other human beings are suffering, and Mu'mineen have responsibility to do something about them. So over here, she very clearly says and prays that I don't want to be part of this system. I don't like this husband who is following the wrong path. Despite having the benefits, I don't like these benefits. And she wants to get out of it because this is a Qawm Zalimeen, because they are unjust people. And this is something which links our Iman with injustices done around us. That if we cannot recognize these injustices and we say we have Iman in Allah, that Iman will not be of the Quran. And that is the point we should keep it in mind, that this is an extremely powerful statement. I never looked at it previously that way, but when I was going through this aspect, then I said, wait a minute, let me look at that verse again. And this is an extremely powerful statement by her, that she is staying within that system. She is the beneficiary of the system. Still, she does not like it and wants to be in a system of being, or the system where there's no injustice to other human beings. And it becomes almost hell for people. Intellectually, it becomes very difficult, agony, torture, anxiety, when there is a lot of wrong being done and you think that I'm okay, but why should I be okay? Just being born here? So these are the kind of questions which should arise in our minds. There are many verses in the Quran which point towards providing safety to Mu'mineen from the consequences which ultimately catch up with the evildoers. For example, in this verse, وَأَنْجَيْنَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَكَانُوا يَتَّقُونَ. So Iman has extremely powerful connotation for human beings, because this is the starting point where we create a new seed, create a new life. And of course, if we have enough time, we then become Muttaqeen. This is in the case of the messenger Lut, because this is coming up later on in this chapter. Now let us go to the next verse, 1547. Human psyche needs to be freed from inner impediments in order to acquire higher eminence for deen. وَنَزَعْنَا مَا فِي صُدُورِهِمْ مِنْ غِلٍّ إِخْوَانًا عَلَى سُرُرٍ مُتَقَابِلِينَ. To whatever extent towards each other, there are reservations that is given in the hearts of the individuals of this society, these will become cleansed. Nothing of prejudice, hate, or deception will remain, so much so that there will be no such secret which they will need to conceal from one another. Like brothers, they will sit on podiums in front of each other with open hearts. Now, there are two terms used in this verse, two terms needing our attention, sururin and gillu. The word al-gillu, it refers to the enmity concealed in the heart. In this root, the aspect of concealing is dominant. It is a kind of knot in a heart which does not get removed, and due to this jealousy, dislike, reservation, vengeance, wedge, venom, those vitriolic sentiments which become fomented then emerge. And this we observe around us, that people who do not come to the Quran, or if we have created a sort of a platform where we want to come together and remove our differences, and they somehow have some reservations against it. And this term Gilun refers to that, because the important thing to which the Quran is drawing our attention is that when your aim is deen, when your aim is to remove zulm from the society, it is not about your individual self. You have come together, you have decided to be together for a very high aim in the path of Allah. Then your own reservations have no place. So try to address those reservations and dislikes and jealousies and egocentrism, because if you do not, then it will not add any strength to this Jamaat which is working on behalf of Allah. So that is the point to which the Quran is drawing our attention. And it's actually a great sign of being Muttaqeen. The foremost characteristic of a Jannati society is that in the hearts of their members, there will be no guilt. For example, in another verse, that is 743, the Quran states, وَنَزَعْنَا مَا فِي صُدُورِهِم مِّن غِلٍّ تَجْرِي مِن تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ قَالُوا الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ الَّذِي هَدَانَا لِهَٰذَا وَمَا كُنَّا لِنَهْتَدِيَ لَوْلَا أَنْ هَدَانَا اللَّهُ لَقَدْ جَاءَتْ رُسُلُ رَبِّنَا بِالْحَقِّ وَنُودُوا أَن تِلْكُمُ الْجَنَّةُ أُورِثْتُمُوهَا بِمَا كُنتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. Over here, then the verse commences with the same wording and then ends by stating that this paradise is based on your own deeds. Hence, no one can snatch it from you, i.e., the state of the self which you have acquired defines you, and you are fully aware of this state of yours. So again, it states from here is that veil is removed. And of course, they have removed it themselves. We all come to Iman with all our negative emotions within us, but we have to get rid of them because we have recognized them and we have looked at the higher purpose of life, and we said, if we keep those prejudices and egocentrism within us and that feeling of wedge and reservation, for example, we can say that so-and-so is trying to project himself, whereas it is not individual we are talking about the Quran and Allah. And unless we have Allah as a model and we are striving on this path together with a view to work towards the system of deen, then this guilt will stay within us. And that will not help in our efforts towards the system of deen. And we can look at the rest of the verse in the Quran, but over here the important point was until kumul jannatu uristumuha bima kuntum ta'malun, that unless we remove this guilt, we cannot be eligible for that Jannat which Allah says that you will get through a developed self. And this point needs a profound reflection, because if we cannot come together in this life on pure Quran with Allah as a model, and we have reservations within our own hearts against each other or about the platform itself or against TOLU-E-ISLAM, then how are we going to be together in the hereafter? Because hereafter continues from here. And this is something very seriously we should look into it, that if we have reservations now, we find it difficult to share this together, and we still have differences, and we leave this world and go to the next life, and over there we want to be with them who were in this path here, but we were uncomfortable with them, we had reservations with them. So how are we going to be adjusted with them in the next life? And we are presenting an evidence against our own selves before Allah. So how are we going to be part of this until kumul jannatu uristumuha bima kuntum ta'malun? Because our deeds, amalun, were with the ghil in our head, with ghil in our hearts. So this is something which we need to look into. I looked at it very carefully and I said, it's not adding up. If we have made all the efforts to acquire Iman, like Pharaoh's wife, and we have a platform, we have an organization which is on pure Quran, but we do not put in our best on this, then that means we don't want to be with them who are on this platform in the hereafter. And it doesn't add up, does it? Next word is Surah, and its root is given here. Its fundamental meaning is secret. Only those can sit face to face who have no secret from each other. Because if there is a will, then we have secret within our heart. We have reservations against each other. And that means we do not agree on some of the points which we discuss in the light of the Quran. The Quran states in another verse, وَيُلَقَّوْنَ فِيهَا تَحِيَّةً وَسَلَامًا تَحِيَّةً وَسَلَامًا. And we can see the roots of both. We have gone through Salam and Tahiyyatan is from life, Hayya. Therein they shall be met with salutation and peace. The terms used are Tahiyyatan wa Salaman, i.e. real life and its developed state. So Quran is drawing our attention continuously from beginning to the end to look into our own self, that what exactly we want from our life and where we wish to be in the hereafter. Do we wish to be with those who are on the pure Quran, or we want to be with them who are not on the pure Quran? Removing these impediments is a prerequisite to the understanding of the Quran as being. In this verse, the Quran has drawn our attention to some important psychological issues of the human self, living life without the guidance of the Quran. We need to pause and reflect by asking a question: do we recognize this limitation of our psyche? And if we do, then do we wish to deal with it? So the first point is to recognize it. And it's very easy. Do we find really inclined towards TOLU-E-ISLAM, its efforts towards pure Quran? All the books which Allama Parvez has written, and we have gone through them, do we agree with what he has written in the light of the Quran? Do we see a need for the system of deen in the world? Are we happy the way man-made system is working in the world? Do we see any poverty and slavery and exploitation in the world? So these are the kind of questions, just like Pharaoh's wife, we have to look at them and see that are we analyzing these things correctly in the light of the Quran? The evidence of this negative state we witness in our day-to-day living, for example, expression of jealousy, envy, negative thoughts arising in minds, egocentric thinking, differences not getting removed despite coming to the Quran, i.e. having reservations and doubts whether this can be achieved. Why is the Quran asking us to strive to eliminate it? And that's an important question. The reason is that the will holds back the manifestation of those potentials as divine attributes which can be brought out by removing these proclivities of ourselves. Because if we do not come together because of this, that we want to promote our own self, our own party, or our own sect and our own group, and we are not happy in for example, on TOLU-E-ISLAM's efforts for pure Quran, and then we go out and want to do our own things, and we look at the numbers, there are more numbers over there. So it's not a question of numbers. Allah doesn't need numbers. He needs mu'mineen. And if there is not a one single moment on this earth, it will make no difference to Allah. The loss is ours. This zulm will continue in the world. And this is something which we should keep it in mind. These are not small steps which we have taken. They are massive steps we have taken towards the understanding of the Quran by acquiring Iman and coming to this path of Allah. These are our inner impediments which are there as part of our initial makeup and need to be identified and then removed by coming together. Just to reflect on the aspect of being together. By remaining isolated, this simply cannot be removed, and by interacting with those who have no interest in the Quran, this cannot be achieved. Next is, this is essential to become innamal mu'minuna ikhwatun. And over here, I've gone into the detail of this word ikhwatun. The root of ikhwatun is not merely brotherly. It means all those who have tied themselves to a common cause, common lofty aim, i.e. to be together in this life as well as in the hereafter. I will repeat it. To be together in this life as well as in the hereafter. We should search our inner corners of our hearts and say, where would I like to be in the hereafter? Would I like to be with those with whom I strived hard on the path of Allah under the umbrella of the pure Quran, or with those where there were more numbers, but they were not purely Quranic, and they were not interested in changing anything in the world because they were the beneficiaries of this system. So that is something which we have to think through. because it's hard to see and where we want to be in the hereafter and in this life as well, because nothing will change in this world. Like that Pharaoh's wife, we will live among those who do zulm in the world, between whom there is no wedge. At a lower level, this can be part of the same tribe, but the Quran takes us far higher than our physical affinities. And we know the verse 3103 where Quran says, "Tasimu bihablillahi jami'an wa la tafarraqu," and then later on it says that had you put all wealth, everything into this, your hearts would have never been united. This is because of the book of Allah. So verse 3103 sums it up comprehensively. Here we need to acquire and inculcate this feeling by looking at all the alternative relationships around us and then make a deliberate choice using our iman. It is iman in Allah which should bind us, and eternity becomes created in this connection. So the life which we create within us is not otherworldly. We know we have created new life because we are manifesting it by coming together, by sticking together, by not looking and saying, oh, nothing is happening. This very question that there is nothing is happening means that we haven't really understood the Quran the way Quran wants us to understand it. Continuing with more reflections, the Quran does not leave it as merely an abstract statement, but turns it into evidence. Physical model in this world which proves to us that what is being stated here is a statement of concrete fact. It is al-haq. In the man-device world, we see that human status based on relative values is decided by, for example, seating them in different rows. Here are a few pictures as evidence. I put down some pictures over here from a recent burial of the Queen of England. And just see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different status. There is a dead body here, and these are the people, and underneath they are all human beings. Of course, they are guarding a dead body. And over here, these are the commoners standing over here. They are the lowest. And then these are the next ones, which are a bit higher because they are more powerful, and they are more powerful because they are displaying it through different uniform. And then they are the most powerful, and then the dead body of the most powerful. And we can see all this going on right in front of us in the world. And they all are human beings, and they are all mortals. They all have to die one day and hold themselves accountable for whatever self they have created for them. So keep these things in mind. These are not ordinary things to which Quran draws our attention. And then see that what iman makes out of us, that we can recognize all of this. Previously, we would have been one of these standing on the footpath. And over here again, see the rows like that. And Quran is saying you will be facing each other. Here the Quran has beautifully summed up that having no reservations in their hearts, united in one cause defined by Allah, they will be facing each other with no secrets hidden in their hearts from each other. This means that prior to that, humans conceal their secrets. Hearts and minds need to be focused in deen on La ilaha illallah. Having secrets in heart, for example, if we have a secret and meet another human being who also is hiding a secret, there can never be fraternity and understanding between the two individuals. That is why, for example, all Iblis, they come together and they share the secret, and they hold their secrets away from the common public whom they want to control. And this is towards the Quran is drawing our attention. Two aspects of deen noted here. La yamassuhum fiha nasabun bamahum minha bimukhrajin. Their hardships, fatigue, or weariness will not be able to even touch them. See how Quran is recognizing all this, that the hardships, fatigue, and weariness of a wrong system. They will always remain fresh and lively and bright and alert, nor will they be turned out of that place. So this is that kind of Jannat. This is that kind of system which we establish. And once we establish that, because that system involves our willingness on that, and that willingness is there far ahead. Before we establish that system, we have brought a change within us where there is no guilt and there are no secrets. The Quranic outcomes manifest in this life. Two aspects stand out in this verse, i.e., firstly, no weariness, weakness, despair will touch them in the Quran. Is the Quran talking about the next life here? What about this life? This is supposed to be the state of a developed self right in this life. When we hold on to the rope of Allah, then we have got hold of the infinitely strong support. Secondly, once we have achieved this exceptional status through the Quran, then no one can ever take this away. This is that resolve and steadfastness towards which the Quran is drawing our attention. The Quran helps us to transform our outlook completely. Man-device systems contribute to every kind of cognitive dissonance, that is civil war within us. And the beauty of the Quran, as it is from Allah, is that it points to these issues of life and then helps us to deal with them progressively. Quran doesn't want us to change overnight. We take time, and we should only accept its guidance when we are fully convinced about it, because half-hearted acceptance will not provide us those benefits which are associated with full connivance of the heart and the mind. Allah does not expect us to change overnight. The only condition is that this transformation should take place well before our physical death, because then we will not have time to grow that seed which we have acquired through our iman. Otherwise, we will not have time to do salih deeds. By stating وَمَا هُمْ مِنْهَا بِمُخْرَجِينَ, the Quran has, that is, they will not come out of it. They will never come out of it. They will not be extradited from Jannat, because that Jannat they have created with their own hands. It is part of their own self. The Quran has made it absolutely clear that since we have earned this status through our efforts willingly, hence no one can snatch it away from us. Even right in this world created by the human intellect, no one can take away our qualifications from us. The knowledge and expertise gained becomes part of our intellectual self, and we observe it. Whatever we have acquired, whatever experiences are, these are part of ourselves. The Quran has declared, tilkumul jannatu awristumuha bima kuntum ta'malun. Very beautifully, it is summing up ta'malun, that whatever you have done, that is your Jannat, leaving no doubt about its 100% ownership by those who achieve it. And we verify this through our salih deeds in this life before we leave here for good. Next verse, 1549, for self-development, we need protection and nourishment, then these potentials emerge within us. Nabi ibadi anni anal ghafurur rahim. We have noticed that there are very verses with very few wording, very few terms, but there is a lot into them. O Rasool, give this news to my devotees that for them there are the means for every kind of protection and nourishment with me. Ibadi, that is my servants. And this is a beautiful term from Allah, that once you are on this path, then He calls us as His servants. 1549, the signs of change in the human psyche to be verified using the Quranic criteria. Here Allah has pointed to two important aspects of following the path. Firstly, the need for protection and security, i.e. to be sure that in the dissemination of this message, we are aware of the risks and to take measures and precautions. Secondly, to ensure the growth of ourselves by acquiring education and training and through the practice of salih deeds. The attribute of Ar-Rahim, we know Rahim is related to nourishment and development, has appeared at a number of places in the Quran, and we need to look at other attributes appearing with it, which means that knowledge of all those attributes will lead to determining their connection with the self's development. For example, right at the beginning is Bismillah Rahman Rahim, that is Rahman and Rahim. We have gone through it, that Rahman refers to emergent evolution and Rahim is progressive evolution. Rauf and Rahim, Rauf is with the love and affection, Rahim is, of course, that is part of development. Same is Rahimun Wadud, Rabbi Rahim, Tawwabur Rahim. So I put down some of these terms over here because as we go through the Quran at our own, we should keep that in mind, that what exactly is being referred here as part of Rahim, that is the nourishment and development. The root of Ibadi is Abd, which means carrying out a task with the desire and motivation of the heart. Very important. It includes initial difficulties leading to great benefits later. It means that the restrictions which we initially impose on ourselves to obey the laws of Allah lead to the development of ourselves. There are always some kind of limitations which we have to impose on ourselves, and that is the risk management in our life. If we have certain default emotive states, we have to come out of it by recognizing it and then overcoming them so that we can bring best out of it. The Quran has called Mu'mineen as Abd of Allah in a number of places and also called himself as Wali of Mu'mineen. For example, Abdullah, Ibadur Rahman, Abdul Munib. Again, we should keep these things in mind, that in what context the word Abd has appeared in a particular verse. We go to the last verse for today's presentation. Consequences of wrong deeds cause pain and ruin. Wa anna azabi huwal azabul alim. So Quran over here has come to this verse by stating that what is Mu'minin doing over there, and those who are not following this path, then what is the consequences of that. But for those people who purchase the means of annihilation for themselves by displaying my laws, there will be agonizing devastations. Understanding azab in the word provides incentive towards deen. This is part of it because we are living in a world which is the initial stage of our life for the life of eternity in the hereafter. And in our pursuit for the system of deen, everyone is not going to become a mu'min and conform to Allah's laws. So we need to know that at what state of development each individual is around us. Because from deeds and behavior and conduct, we can draw a lot of conclusions. And Quran has pointed to this fact that you have to, for example, to recognize Muttaqeen, you have to see that how they behave. So that means collection of information, some kind of system we have to have in place. And this is important because without it, we cannot understand that how we are going to observe the progress of the system, because people who do not agree with the system of deen and maybe even working against it, they are out to harm it. And we know through the history that it was harmed after about 100 years. When the Quran mentions punishment of human deeds, Allah at times relates these to himself. The consequences of these deeds do not appear from outside. These are built within human actions. For example, I've taken examples from our physical life, taking drugs, smoking, drinking alcohol, and those kind of things. Even in the case of creating wars, unrest, chaos, injustice, it may appear as if these are imposed from outside. Allah doesn't do injustice to anyone. These are the consequences of the wrong decisions of people against each other in the physical domain, and Allah does not do it to human beings. The Quran has clearly declared, based on evidence, Inna Allaha la yazlimu nasa shay'an walakinna nasa anfusahum yazlimun. That Allah, surely Allah will never cause any zulm, any injustice to any human being. It is beyond him. He follows his own laws. Walakinna nasa, it is human beings who do wrong to themselves because they do not follow the righteous path. As a result, they suffer and their life ends in hell. They create hell here, and of course the continuation of hell beyond their death. Here the Quran has made it clear that whatever we do, its imprint is on ourselves. With practice and experience, we can easily recognize its effects on ourselves. In our case, the good effects of salih deeds. Next point is the Quran has used different terms for azab. Here it is azabul alim, the punishment of extreme grief. So we should look at it where azim, for example, is a supreme punishment. Of course, this will be a very high degree of punishment, maybe encompassing many other negative aspects of our life. So we should look at it as azabul muhin as well. That is also another kind of punishment which we incur on us. So we can bring to mind all kinds of events and acts in the world which cause grief. For example, death by an accident, loss of livelihood through injustice, exploitation, slavery, physical and mental abuse, extreme poverty. So we need to understand the context. For example, if Mu'mineen suffer, it will be taken for granted that they are suffering because of the wrong system around them. It is not that they are contributing to the wrong system. They can never ever contribute to the wrong system. They will in fact be trying to mend it. They will be trying to improve it. They will be trying to admonish and provide warning to others that don't do it. This is the wrong path. The other types of punishments are described in the book titled The Life in the Hereafter. What does the Quran say? By G.A. Pervez, chapter 18. Very comprehensively it is dealt over there. There are a lot of references given as well. And it's actually an outstanding book if one can get hold of it and read through it. And one can benefit a lot. With that, I come to the end of this presentation. Thanks for your time and for sharing this presentation.